What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Panels on Pages podcast. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our guest this week, Danny J. Quake. Danny, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you. Pronounce your name for me so I can make sure I say it right.
You know what? I like to play this game. How would you pronounce it?
Oh man, I would say uh Dalibor. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I hate butchering people's names. I have a pretty simple name, but meeting people all over the world, you can find some names you're not used to saying. So I always like to ask.
absolutely. And I appreciate that. I really do. A lot of people add extra A's for like the first probably 8 years I was in this country. It was Dalabar. I don't know how
Oh
the
yeah.
O turned into an A for a lot of people for some reason. Not really sure how that works, but that's just how people are. And for a long time, I didn't care. For a long time, I was like, whatever. But then there comes a time where you feel pride in who you are and how you want to be addressed. And
Yeah.
at some point, I would stop people. I'm like, no, it's Dalibor. Like it's an O. There's an O there. Very very straightforward. Like it's as
Right.
written. Like it's not complicated. Uh, but Danny, I was introduced to you through TikTok, and I think TikTok right now is like blowing my mind as to how much indie creator energy there is, and how much like I knew there were independent comics. Like I mean, I've been a comic head for almost 30 years now, so it's like
Hmm.
I've known about independent comics. I did not know the field was that broad. I did not know that there were this many people doing it with such a wide array of like types of books and characters and all this type of stuff. So I'm just really, really glad that I found you. And as soon as I saw your stuff, I was like, this looks dope. And then you had my like number one requirement when I find new creators. You had a trade paperback. Like
Oh,
that full collect you see behind me, I collect trades. Like
you
I
got
don't
a
ha-
you got a lot back there, man. You got your collection is
I
like I
gotta
want
I
to say
gotta have
twice
it.
the size of mine.
I gotta have a trade paperback. And for me, it was like that's like at cons, everybody's like, oh, let me tell you about my book. Let me tell you about my book. And my first question is, do you have a trade? All right, well, that
Mhm.
sounds cool, but I can't buy from you today because I buy trades.
Yeah,
So having
yeah.
that is number one. Like I love that. I love that.
I think is for me that was one of my goals is when I started I was like because the first four books that are in the trade there are there were some of the earlier stuff that I wrote for Ace Blade. And as I kept making comics, I kept getting better and better as a writer. And I think when we finished the second book, I was at a point where I was like, man, this the stuff that I'm writing now is so much better than this stuff. Do I even want to finish it? So I kind of revamped it a little bit and tried. And I was like, I have to get this collection. I have to get this first arc out of the way. I have to get it done to say that I've at least done that. So even if I never made another comic, I could at least say that I put this collection together, and I can have that out there in the world. So that was one of my early goals.
That's awesome. And that's a great goal. Like you didn't say, oh man, like I don't like as much what I did first, so I'm just gonna back out of the whole thing or start over. Or, there's a number of ways to like excuse your way out of the whole thing. To just be like, all right, well, I don't have to finish because like the original stuff's not as good as what I'm writing now, so I don't have to finish this because it won't be the same. But like you went and you finished the first arc, and that's great because that gives people a whole thing to grab a hold of, and that's fantastic. And of course, we're
Sure.
talking about Ace Blade. Ace Blade, just such a dope concept. First of all, it takes place somewhere else besides in New York.
You're right.
Like New York, and like on a slight tangent, Chicago. Chicago, I feel like is like
Hmm.
it's the second place a lot of things happen, and maybe LA. LA is like absolutely the third, but then like nothing else in between.
I don't know why that is. I'm from North Carolina, and I I have a story that I'm writing for a character in North Carolina, but I knew that wasn't the place that I wanted. That that's it's not a hot place for action. But when you think of especially Ace Blade, and he's dealing with themes of greed and corruption. One of the places that you think of that people go to win money quickly, they go and they risk it all literally to hit it big for money is Vegas. So it just seems like a natural a natural place to put them in.
And that's awesome. And I like seeing that kind of stuff. I like seeing a different location. I mean, oh, one more superhero fight next to the Statue of Liberty. Exciting. Like we've seen it all
I
before.
do have we do got the
Right,
Statue of
it's a
Liberty
different.
though. We got
It's a little smaller though. It's a little smaller.
it's a little smaller, yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
thing. It's
I can
kind of
still
like a
put
place that
Aceblade
has.
in there with that, yeah.
It's kind of like a place that has all of those things. It's got peppering of everywhere. It's got like a big pyramid. It's got Vegas is a crazy place. I don't even know if I could go to Vegas because of just the lights and all the shiny things. I feel like I would just be all over the place, and next thing you know, I'd be out of $1,000.
Yeah, it's a fun place. I visited my little brother, he's out there in the Air Force, and I visited him. Me and my wife went over there for a while, and it was great to go. But yeah, you can definitely lose money quickly out there.
I bet. Now I wanted to ask. I was starting to get into the book, and I'm starting to read. One of the early things I saw here, and that kind of piqued my interest, is you have it right here on the intro on the thank you page rather. You say Christoph Hollers is the man who provided the spark. How did that work? Like when I saw Aceblade, you're the one promoting it, you're the one writing it. Who is Christoph?
Christoph is a good friend of mine. Long time ago, I was working a job where basically we worked for a company that made like Pokemon cards and top cards, and we were both machine operators, so we were in charge of cutting the cards and making sure that they were sorted correctly and stuff like that. And all we would do is talk comic books. All we would do is talk superheroes and stuff like that. And at the time he was making like costume jewelry for Green Lantern. Like he would make his own Green Lantern rings
Oh,
in
that's
his
cool.
basement with resin and all this stuff. And one day he just came out to me and was like, "Hey man, I had this idea for this character when he was in school. He had done some sketches and stuff like that." And I told him that I was a writer. I'd like to write while I was in school, and I wanted to be a writer. And he was like, "Yo, let me tell you about this character, and if you can create something for him, maybe we can do something with it." And unfortunately, well, I can't say unfortunately, I got deployed later on that year to Iraq. But while I was over there, I would always write stories about Aceblade. I kept, kind of building the the universe around him. And I kept sending Christoph stuff back. He was like, "Man, you should take it and run with it." So I always try to make sure I give him credit because he did, he is the initial, creator of Aceblade. But over the years he's kind of pushing me to keep to keep making it. I'm like, "Yo, you should come and continue to write stories." But he does, he does some art for it, and he's made rings and stuff like that for Aceblade. So I try to make sure the man gets his credit.
That's awesome. See, that's really cool. Like there is like there are people who have skill sets and have idea. Like I feel like I'm an idea man, but like I do not have art skills. Like I have maybe concept level art. Like what I always say is I can't draw a symmetrical figure to save my life. Like if my life depended on it,
Right.
I'd be dying that day. Like so like to me, I know my kind of my lane, and I write. And for me, if I was like I got a really cool idea, but I need somebody to draw that out. I need somebody to build it out. So that's
Hmm.
cool that you guys kind of brought your talents together and built something out that's really dope. Why
Yeah,
go ahead.
it was definitely a partnership there. He we just like working with anybody in any team, it's like one person does one thing, and the other person does it, but it's a partnership. So I'm happy to be writing these stories and out here promoting and pushing and stuff like that. And he's happy to send me a sketch every now and then, and get get copies of the book in the mail. And and we both got before he passed, we both got Stan Lee to sign a book for us, and we got it graded. And that's one thing that we both keep in our collection. So
Oh, that's
uh,
awesome.
it's great.
That's super cool. I like yeah, that's it's dope to kind of like find a kindred spirit like that to be able to build something with. Um
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask about the kind of like layout of the book. I'm a big fan of how
Mhm.
trades are collected, how they're put together, the kind of the little bits and pieces in between just this like you have the story obviously, but then like
Mhm.
you have dope spreads like this. Like this is obviously it's like we've got like a promo page. It's it's talking
For
about your
sure.
socials and stuff. but it's just kind of like it's a cool break within the story. So it almost feels like like a ad break in a news, like a news program. All right, before we get to that
Right.
next part, let me tell you about our social medias. Like,
Right.
so, did
Yeah,
you put the
that's
book
definitely.
together? Or?
Yes. Actually, I actually have my degree in graphic design, and and I, those things were definitely intentional, but more as a, if you once you get further into the book, you'll see that they're strategically placed either to um cause suspense before you get to a certain part, or to give a break between, two scenes. So um most of the time we drop them in there to try to kind of break up the story a little bit, but then we try to not do it as often, because I know me being a comic reader, sometimes you can get overwhelmed with all of the ads that are in there, and all the got milks and previews for other comics and stuff like that. So we try not to do it too much, but sometimes we need that break, and then sometimes it's just to set up a 2-page spread or something like that. So it's necessary.
And that's really cool. There is something, like, you're right. There's something to that additional material. Like the ads back in the day, I remember always, you'd be mid action or Wolverine's about to cut someone's face off, and you flip the page
Hmm.
and it's like, subscribe to X-Men. Like, dang it, I was trying. So it kind of builds it up, but it kind of makes you pause a little bit. Like it's a
Hmm.
whole experience to it, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate seeing extra art and stuff like that between issues. Like you've got that intro right here for this is, I think, the third issue here, and then you've got
Hmm.
the extra artwork there for the credits page. I like seeing stuff like that. Like I'm a process junkie. Like this is what I kind of like live on. There's a whole
Hmm.
stack of, I got sketchbooks over here from different artists and stuff like that. Like I would almost rather, it's kind of weird. I would almost rather get like a director's cut where it's like black and white
Hmm.
and I can see like all the pieces and parts, than just to get the final book. Like I love the experience, the whole thing, but like I'd read the digital copy but have the physical, like, sketches, inks, like breakdown pages. Love that stuff. Like,
Hmm.
movie art books and stuff like that. That's my shit.
Yeah,
So like
me
I
too.
love seeing
I
those stuff.
really enjoyed it. I really enjoy that kind of stuff too. Especially my wife used to always pick on me because I'll always when I used to collect DVDs and Blu-rays, and I would always I would always watch the directors commentaries if they had it, if they had it included. And I would watch the movie through one time, and then I'm going to go back and listen to what the director is saying about the process of the movie. And the same thing with the comics. I always read the notes from the director, or the writer's notes or stuff. I mean, the writer's notes or stuff like that. So it's like if as soon as I had the opportunity to do something like that, I was absolutely going to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of one of my. I always talk about this. One of my favorite director's commentaries is for Transformers. Transformers is not my favorite movie by far. I think it's a fun movie. I think it does what it needs to do. But like the director's commentary on that movie is my absolute favorite, because there's this
Yeah.
whole story about how when they first, like, they went to a whole bunch of uh, CG artists, and they were like, hey, so we're gonna be doing a Transformers movie. Here's our design of Optimus Prime. And I guess the first sketch, and I feel like I've seen it. There's like some sketches out there on the internet, but it was like chunky. It was kind of like broad. Like he didn't
Hmm.
look like Optimus Prime. Like he didn't look right. And I guess there's a Japanese guy that stands up and he's like, this Optimus Prime is an insult to the Japanese people.
Love
and
it.
and
Uh-huh.
he and that guy ended up doing that, like, first transforming scene with the helicopter on the military base.
Oh
And
yeah.
so it was
Okay.
just like a really cool story. So now every time I see that movie, I'm like, that's the guy. Like
Yeah.
that's that
It
that's that.
gives it it gives it a deeper meaning. It gives it. I think it gives you a better connection to the process of the film, and to not just the story that's in the film, but the story of making the film too, because those things are important.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of the coolest things, and uh the director is now passed, unfortunately, but there's a documentary called, it's a long name. It's the Superman, or the Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. That's the whole name of it. Because Superman Lives was going to be the Nick Cage movie back in like the mid to late
Right.
90s.
Yeah.
And they did this whole documentary. They interviewed all these people involved with it. It is a roller coaster of a ride about everything that happened to it. And that's ultimately why Superman Returns, I think it was, the oh my goodness, I don't remember.
Brandon Roth.
Yeah,
Brandon
thank you.
Roth.
Brandon Routh's movie. That's why it failed ultimately, because they essentially tacked on all the budget that was wasted in all the pre-production for the Superman Lives movie to that, because that movie, Superman Returns, has like a $300 million budget because they just tacked it on. They just like tacked it on to that movie. So it failed because it was always going to fail, because it's like 2 movies worth of budget.
Yeah. That's
But like that,
wild. And yeah, stuff like that is crazy. And I recently heard the story of the how they got the first Superman movie made, and it was a roller coaster too. Like Superman has had a tough time in theaters.
yeah, for sure. I mean, even lately.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, rumors and all that. Rumors abound with if he's going to be coming back. I actually liked him, Superman. I didn't necessarily love the portrayal, but it's a different universe. It took me a long time to get that, though. It took me a long time to be like, this DC universe is not DC Comics or DC Animated. These are different characters.
Exactly. DC Animated always gets it right for somehow. They always, like, they're batting like 99% at this point. Like,
the shows are so good, like so amazingly good, like well ran, well told, and everything. Versus what the cinematic stuff does. Like everyone that makes a movie based on a DC property seems to kind of want to do their take on it versus just like doing justice to the character.
And I've heard something recently that made a lot of sense to me. I think somebody, I think it was somebody on TikTok that said it, and they were basically saying that because they are owned by Warner Brothers knows how to make blockbuster movies, of course. But so now, of course, since they have the biggest, comic book properties in the world with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they want every movie to be a blockbuster. So of course they're going to put that budget. They're going to get the best directors. They're going to get this, but they're not as focused on the storytelling and the world building of it that you would get in comic books. And because Marvel started off, lower budget than they wish they would have, they had to kind of focus on that to get it going. So, it's just how it happened.
Absolutely. So speaking of starting at a lower budget and moving to new projects, currently on Kickstarter, we have Aceblade issue 5. Villain season is here. Tell me about the new stuff.
So I like to tell people like this. If I were a superhero, or if I were, a hero, it's at some point you kind of feel like you would get frustrated, especially somebody like Aceblade who doesn't have any powers and who doesn't have $1 billion in his bank account to fund his, his vigilantism.
We're not all Bruce Wayne.
We're not all Bruce Wayne. So when I first started out, I would always explain Aceblade to people. I would say he's like Batman, but he's broke. And at this point, he's been fighting crime for almost a year. And the villains are getting stronger. He's having to fight people who've got ice powers, who can disappear, guys with metal arms and stuff like that. But he doesn't feel like he's made the progress in the city that he wants. So people are still gambling away their life savings. They're still out here selling drugs to get their next dollar or something like that. And he's frustrated. So at this point, he wants to kind of cross those boundaries between being a hero and a villain. And he has to fight all 4 of these villains in the same night. So if he's gonna break at any time, it's gonna be during this book. So we made it a little longer. It's a 36-page book. So that's why the price is a little higher than normally it would be. But I think people will really enjoy it, and I think people will really get a good look into who Aceblade is here.
That's really cool. I like that that the way you described that he's going to fight all 4 of them in the one night. It kind of reminds me of I think it was called I don't remember the name of the arc, but it was an arc in Spider-Man where Dr. Octopus just like sent all the bad guys at Spider-Man like back to back to back just to break him down so he'd make a mistake when he showed up. And that's kind of what it reminded me of right away. So like I like that idea. I like the idea of just like kind of teetering on that edge of like, you know, once he's on that third villain, he's gonna be like, all right, look, at some point somebody gotta pay me for this, man. Like,
yeah, right.
I gotta start getting paid because this is getting ridiculous.
Exactly.
Like, and I feel that. I feel that frustration could build, and I can understand that. Like, you know, I'm a normal human being. Like,
yeah,
you know, a day of just bad customers, I'm like, I need to get more money out this.
Right. Right. Oh, I love it.
No, that's really cool. So is this next arc also going to be 4 issues?
The next arc after, well, so Villain Season is a standalone book, and then
okay.
the next arc, we're actually on layouts for book 7 right now. So the next arc is going to be 5 books. It's going to be Aceblade Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me.
Yeah.
And it's a 5-book series, but the Villain Season arc is going to be standalone, but Aceblade 12 or Aceblade 11 might be Villain Season 2. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. I see you got your daughter picked up, so I'm gonna let you go. I don't want to hold on. I don't want to hold you too long.
It's no problem. She's used to me taking interviews in the car by now.
That's awesome, though. We will have, of course, the link to the Kickstarter in the podcast description, as well as the video description down below if you're watching on YouTube. Any parting words? What is the stretch goal that you got right now? Because you got funded in like 2 days, which was awesome, which was of course expected because Aceblade, seriously.
No.
But what is the current stretch goal?
Right now, we're trying to get to $10,000, and if we get to 10K, we're gonna add 4 more pages to the book. We got a young man, Hector Mirai, who sent me in a short story for Aceblade. He commented on one of my posts and he was like, "Hey man, I got an idea. Can I send it to you?" And he sent it last week, and I was like, "Man, this would be the perfect segue into the Cream series." And it was like he was reading my mind. So I was like, "Listen, if we can get to 10,000, we're gonna put this in the book, add 4 more pages to it, and give it to everybody." So
that's
hopefully
awesome.
we can get there, and I appreciate everybody's support so far.
That's awesome. Well, let's anybody watching, anybody listening, check out the link. Please go back, Aceblade Villain Season, and let's get this 10K. Let's get this extra story because now I'm hyped. Now you got people coming in and enriching the world. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for your time. I'm really, really excited for this book. I'm working my way through this. I'm going to do a whole issue, a whole episode just talking about the first volume of Aceblade. And I'm excited, man. I'm happy that you got it funded so quick and that we're working towards stretch goals now.
I appreciate you, and like I said, I appreciate the support always. And I got to come back on and get another episode with you sometime soon.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.